The Ukrainian Air Force destroyed 3 Russian anti-aircraft missile systems and struck 7 clusters of enemy personnel over the past day. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine said this in a morning update published on Facebook, Ukrinform reports. The Russian Federation continues to use terror tactics. Last day, the enemy launched 19 missile strikes. Our defenders successfully intercepted 15 enemy Kh-101 and Kh-555 cruise missiles, 17 airstrikes, and carried out 25 attacks using multiple launch rocket systems. Unfortunately, there were killed and injured civilians, including children. Multi-story residential buildings, private residential buildings, schools, hospitals, kindergartens and other civil infrastructure were destroyed and damaged, the report says. The threat of further Russian missile attacks and airstrikes across the entire territory of Ukraine remains high, the General Staff warns. Russian troops continue to focus main efforts on conducting offensive operations in the Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Mariinka sectors. 41 enemy attacks were repelled. Bakhmut and Mariinka remain at the epicenter of hostilities. Ukrainian soldiers hold the defense. In the Volyn and Polishcha directions, no signs of enemy offensive groups formation were detected. In the Severshchina and Slobozhanshchina directions, the enemy launched an airstrike with guided aerial bombs on the village of Lyzunivka in Chernihiv region. A child was killed. Russian forces shelled the settlements of Leonivka, Krasny Kutyr, Karpovichi, Remiak and Novgorod-Siversky in Chernihiv region, Saradina Buda, Shostka, Kodyne, Iskryskivshchina, Volfin, and Sadki in Sumy Oblast, as well as Yudi, Poptivka, Streleka, and Kotny in Kharkiv region. In the Kupiansk direction, the enemy did not conduct offensive operations. Fyholivka, Zapadna, Lyman Pershi, Kyslivka, Kupiansk, Krokmeln and Berestov in Kharkiv region came under enemy artillery and mortar attacks. In the Lyman direction, the enemy attempted to improve the tactical position, conducted unsuccessful offensive actions in the areas of Novoselivsky and Bilohorivka. Russian forces launched an airstrike on Bilohorivka, Hurahorivka, and Spern. Makivka, Dubrova, Bilohorivka in Luhansk region, as well as Verkhniokamyansk and Spern in Donetsk region came under enemy artillery fire. In the Bakhmut direction, the enemy continues to conduct offensive operations. Fighting continues in the city of Bakhmut. In addition, throughout the day, the enemy conducted unsuccessful offensive operations in the area of Predtekine. They launched an airstrike on Bakhmut and Bilohora. Vashukivka, Orikovo-Vasilivka, Novomarko, Hurahorivka, Bakhmut, Kromu, Chasiv Yar, Ivanovsky, Kostayantinivka, Delivka and Pivden in Donetsk region came under enemy shelling. In the Avdiivka direction, the enemy carried out offensive operations in the areas of Severn and Pervomaysk settlements, but had no success. Russian forces launched an airstrike on Avdiivka. Lastochkin, Severn, Pervomaysk and Karlivka in Donetsk region came under enemy shelling. In the Mariinka direction, the enemy continues to attack the Ukrainian positions. Battles for Mariinka are ongoing. Georgivka in Donetsk region also came under enemy fire. In the Shakhtarsk direction, the enemy did not conduct offensive operations. Vuhledar, Bohwa-Avlenka and Novokranka in Donetsk region came under enemy shelling. In the Kherson and Zaporizhia direction, the invaders are holding the defense. They are shelling populated areas, including Vremivka, Novosilka, Novopil in Donetsk region, Malinivka, Chervon, Huliaipol, Charivny, Bilahirya, Molotokmichka, Novodanilivka, Sherbaki and Zeleny High in Zaporizhia region, Nikopol in Dnepropetrovsk region, as well as Ivanovsky, Kozatsky, Osokarivka, Zolota Balka, Kachkarivka, Respublikanets, Berislav, Vesel, Odradokamyanka, Tyainka, Bilozerka, Kizimys and the city of Kherson. Over the past day, aircraft of the Defense Forces destroyed 3 Russian anti-aircraft missile systems and launched 7 strikes targeting enemy personnel clusters. An enemy Orlan-10 reconnaissance UAV was also shot down. Throughout the day, units of the missile troops and artillery hit a command post, 6 clusters of weapons and military equipment, 2 ammunition depots, as well as a fuel warehouse of the enemy, the General Staff said. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces reported on May 2 that Russia had lost 191,420 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of its full-scale invasion on February 24 last year. This number includes 460 casualties Russian forces suffered just over the past day. Ukraine claims Russian troops and Wagner mercenaries are fighting each other. A recent report out of Ukraine suggests that at least some of the fighting there is not just between the Ukrainian and Russian militaries, but between Russian soldiers and members of the Wagner Group private military company as well. According to a recent update from the Ukrainian military, a dispute between Russian soldiers and mercenaries from the Wagner Group in Luhansk Oblast escalated into a full-on firefight with multiple participants killed. With no significant achievements on the battlefield, the Russian armed forces and Wagner Group, PMC, are increasingly attempting to find someone to blame for the defeats. They shift the responsibility for their own tactical miscalculations and losses suffered onto each other, reads an April 23 update from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. As a result, a fight between Russian armed forces and PMC Wagner mercenaries broke out in the settlement of Stanija Luhanska, Luhansk Oblast, recently, the update continued. It escalated into a shootout with participants on both sides killed as a result. The Ukrainian military's report was, of course, not confirmed by the Russian government, but tensions between the military and Kremlin-connected oligarch Yevgeny Prigozhin's mercenary group have been simmering in public for the last several months now, with both sides sniping at each other in a veritable war of words. At the beginning of the year, the Russian Defense Ministry claimed to have taken the Ukrainian city of Soledar, but did not note the presence of the Wagner Group, prompting a complaint from Prigozhin. In February, with Wagner Group mercenaries heavily engaged around the Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, Prigozhin gave an interview to a popular Russian military blogger, criticizing the military for not supplying his private contractors with sufficient ammunition. "I posted this photo of one of the points where we collect the dead, and all these guys died yesterday because of this so-called ammunition hunger," Prigozhin said. "There should have been 5 times fewer dead. Whose fault is this that they died? Those who should have solved the supply issue are to blame." Prigozhin went on to name Russian Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu and Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Russia General Valery Gerasimov is responsible for the supply issues around Bakhmut, where the Wagner Group was largely credited with achieving minimal territorial gains. By April, Prigozhin went so far as to question how much longer Russia's invasion of Ukraine would continue. The ideal option would be to announce the end of the special military operation and declare that Russia has achieved all of its planned goals. And, in some respects, we really have achieved them, Prigozhin wrote in a more than 3,000-word blog post on April 14. A week later, Prigozhin accused Russian decision-makers of treason, stating in an interview that a criminal group did not give Wagner forces ammunition, and adding that, "I think what is happening today is a crime against Russia and Russian people. The criminals must be held accountable." As the war enters its 15th month, Ukraine is widely assumed to be preparing for a large offensive to break the stalemate that has marked the recent months of the conflict. From the beginning of the war, Russia's military has been marked by a general lack of discipline, perhaps in no small part due to its near-total lack of a trained corps of non-commissioned officers, which makes the possibility of infighting among the various factions of Russian combatants entirely unsurprising. The Wagner Group, meanwhile, has gained plenty of notoriety for recruiting convicts to fight in the Russian invasion of Ukraine, although the organization claims to have stopped the practice earlier this year. In the meantime, Prigozhin has touted Wagner as essentially the closest thing Russia has to a competent military force, which is at the heart of the dispute between the military and mercenaries. Last week, Prigozhin once again took to the media to threaten the possibility of Wagner Group leaving the battlefield. Now, with regard to the need in general for shells at the front, what we want. Today we are coming to the point where Wagner is ending, Prigozhin told Russian military blogger Semyon Pegov on April 28, according to Reuters. Wagner, in a short period of time, will cease to exist. We will become history, nothing to worry about, things like this happen.